Hello, I'm Thurston County Commissioner Tye Menser, and today I'm down at the Tumwater Falls Park, where this time of year we can see the salmon spawning. This park is only one of the many places we can see the salmon run here in Thurston County. We are so lucky to be the home for such an important species. Salmon restoration is one of my top priorities, not only because of their place in the food chain and their cultural significance to many in the South Sound, but also because salmon are a critical indicator of the overall health of our larger ecosystem. Our natural spaces are what make the Pacific Northwest so unique, and they are worth protecting for generations to come. Today, we are going to talk with Steve, Jeannie, and Trevin, County Public Works staff who have led Thurston County's Salmon Enhancement Program. And we're going to learn more about one of the ways Thurston County is acting to protect and restore salmon habitat. Thanks for being here today, guys. First and foremost, why are salmon and other fish species so important to our overall environment?
Washington State, obviously we have a great cultural attachment to salmon. It's been here since the Ice Age and since the early Native Americans are here. It's a huge piece of their cultural, traditionally and also economically. And the same for the constituents of Thurston County. Basically we have commercial fishing. We have basically sport fishing, actually right behind us at the falls. You can often see people that are fishing, and we have hatcheries. There's a huge business and economic side to it, and then not to mention just the benefits of all the ecological sides of having salmon basically return to our streams, from the nutrients all the way down to basically knowing that we have a healthy water system.
Also a huge significance to the local tribes in the area because of cultural and spiritual benefits, as well as economic benefits from commercial fishing.
One of the things Thurston County is doing is what's known as the Fish Passage Enhancement Program. Can one of you describe kind of what that is?
I can, yes. Our Thurston County Fish Passage Enhancement Program is specifically designed to identify, prioritize, and address remove and replace fish passage barriers throughout the county. Fish passage barriers are culverts, meaning they pass water underneath our roads that are associated with streams, rivers that may have salmon in them. The barriers themselves, often there are two common barrier conditions. One of them is known as the velocity barrier, most easily explained by a fire hose effect. If you put your finger over a garden hose, the water is going to spray out much faster. Same thing happens with culverts. If you have a large stream flowing through a small culvert, the water can get through, but it'll go much faster. The salmon have trouble getting up. Occasionally, the salmon can make it through those types of streams, but we're trying to design these for salmon of all life cycle. So these small fish can't get through, therefore it's a velocity barrier. The second option for a barrier would be a vertical drop. Again, it's partnered with the velocity that'll scour out below the outfall of that culvert, and you get a drop. And it looks very similar to a waterfall at the end of a culvert. Again, big fish can sometimes make that if they're lucky, but the small fish can never make it. Those are the problems we're trying to address with the Fish Enhancement Program.
And we want people to think fish, not fish. And if you get these guys to come back or make it through the year, you'll get the full-size spawners down the road. And so 3 to 4 year turnaround, and those small guys will come back to the areas that we're opening up. And we're hoping that we've opened up, at this point we're over 7 miles, and we'll be pushing up to 14 by the end of the next biennium's worth of money in the program.
So Steve mentioned selection criteria, and so what goes into deciding which particular places we choose to do these projects?
Thurston County has a fantastic asset management program. That program monitors, they inspect all the culverts that Thurston County owns. We have about 3,000 culverts that our teams inspect and maintain every year. But of those 3,000 culverts, there are only about 300 that might be associated with fish, meaning they connect to or pass a small stream. Of those 300, We rely on Fish and Wildlife, Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, who inspect those culverts, the fish passage culverts, to determine whether it's a barrier or not. We have approximately 100 culverts in Thurston County that are county owned that we know are barriers or likely barriers. But of those, there's not significant upstream habitat on all of them. So what we really have is 75 culverts, and this number changes as people inspect and as conditions change. But we have about 75 culverts that we're looking to replace through this program. We prioritize those looking at condition of the culvert, which is a minor piece, but we mostly look at the habitat gain, potential habitat gain, the quality of that habitat, the barrier status of the culvert, but then we also consider constructability and cost of those culverts. That's how we select which culverts we'll be able to afford and be able to replace during this program.
What makes us very unique from anybody else in the state, and we've basically gotten some recognition and asked to go visit a lot of our neighbors at different counties, is we're fish first. So most of the time when people put in a fish culvert, it's in relation to a road failure. It's in relation to a bridge that needs replaced and it was too small in the first place, or the culvert was too small in the first place. The county commissioners need to be commended for the fact that they basically recognized with the lawsuits that come down through the tribes that the state's having to deal with, we need to be proactive and get ahead of this to be able to develop a program that actually does put fish first, to take care of the habitat issues, to get fish up in those other areas. So it's been a very unique situation for me who's been doing this kind of work for a long time, to actually be in a program to where we're talking to the engineers and our consultants saying, we know usually we're trying to get this done for roads first, but actually to talk about fish passage first is super unique, and we're really the only ones at a local agency level that have taken it onto this within the state.
How is Thurston County managing the funding for this program?
The funding, that's the crucial piece of the program. Without the funding, we would have no program. The program currently is funded through REIT, Real Estate Excise Tax, which is directed by the commissioners. We have been awarded $2 million per year for the past 4 years, counting next year, to prioritize, identify, and actually construct as many culverts as we can. So REIT is the primary fund source for this program, but we are looking at leveraging those dollars and using grant sources. Jeannie has applied for several grants, and we have been awarded many.
We've probably got, for the $4 million that we got through REIT funds, we've leveraged that towards $2.4 million in additional grant funding from a variety of sources. Some of it came from the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, some from the Governor's Salmon Recovery Funding Board, some from federal highways, some from the Nisqually tribe. So quite a variety of sources, and it has definitely added value to the amount that comes from the REIT funds.
So you identified there about $6.4 million. And what's the average price of a culvert project? i.e. how many culverts, how far does that go?
Exactly, it varies widely, obviously, but most of our culverts can be replaced by a bridge or a larger culvert. The larger culverts can depend somewhere between $300,000 all the way up to $700,000 or so, and it depends on the size of the culvert and the depth below the road. The bridges typically pick up from there about $750,000 for our cheapest bridges, all the way up to, we can get over $1 million through this program. At the moment, we haven't gone for any of our larger cost culverts because it would just be too difficult to permit them and construct them within the timeline of our program.
And then there's a question on, would we actually get the maximum benefit for the dollar if we went for great big ones? Where I'm a pretty big believer in the system that we've built with the spreadsheet that Steve has worked very hard on to help us screen out which are the best bang for the dollar. So I'm a pretty big fan if we can get 5 or 6 smaller culverts and adds up to 10 miles of habitat versus one big splashy project that's one mile of habitat. I think we're getting more bang for the buck. The other thing that we've got a lot of recognition in throughout the state is our county engineer have basically, Scott Lindblom needs some credit on basically being willing to use prefabricated structures. So prefabricated structure back in the day was considered almost a temporary fix. At this point in time, it's a 75-year fix. So it's, and you get them at a cost without a custom-built bridge. So we basically are able to pick from a variety of things, such as this full-span bridge. We put in the longest possible within the cost frame at a place called Hunter Point that's 80 feet long. We've put in the county's first aluminum culvert on Wattle Creek, And then we've used a series of these throughout the system. So we're feeling pretty good about making the money stretch by also choosing the right structure.
So one of the things that I've learned about just in my time as a commissioner and looking at these projects is just how many steps are involved, how much professional expertise is involved, and it's probably a lot more complex than most citizens understand. Could you walk us through kind of a culvert project A to Z, just in terms of the steps that are involved and the types of professional expertise that we utilize?
Absolutely. Once a site has been selected for through this program to be addressed, we begin with data gathering. That's typically the county surveyors go out and they map the land. That allows us to bring that into our computer for modeling. Then we hire engineers. The county has several engineers. We can do the work in-house on some projects, but many of these projects we've hired consultants to do the stormwater modeling, the hydraulic and hydrologic modeling for the stream flows and rebuilding the stream. Again, we're rebuilding a stream through the new structure, so the structures are much larger. With that structure being much larger, we have to make sure that we have the geotechnical knowledge. It's going to be a heavier structure, larger structure, spanning structure, so we need geotechnical research, drilling, design for foundations, structural design of the actual structure. Then, once we have all of that background data gathered and developed, we prepare the plans, specifications, and estimate. That's the paper product that we were able to bid, and we hire contractors to build. Upon the point of hiring the contractor, that's when the contractors and their subcontractors get to the site and start building this project. That's where it's very visible, and that's where the big dollars come in as well. And again, we have county staff involved at that level. They're doing survey, as construction management, inspection, and then when it's all complete, project is complete, and the road is back open again, the county stays involved for the life of that structure. We're on site annually doing inspections. If it's a bridge, we have a strong bridge inspection team that takes over management of that bridge. Even for the smaller culverts, we have, like I said before, we have a strong asset management program for culverts. We inspect those culverts, we maintain those. Our operations and maintenance is on the hook for life, so we have to make sure we design them properly and then maintain them so they live the longest that we can keep them in operation.
So on the environmental side of it, the permits actually lock us in 3 to 5 years, to where we're going to make sure that we have the plants have established, make sure that the channel that we've reestablished is functioning properly. So I've basically compared this to one of our sites is over 100 years. It's been a blockage. And so we've opened it up for the first time in 100 years. Well, that's the first time it's been able to act as a stream in 100 years. So it has tons of sediment and gravel and large weed debris and things that haven't been able to transport. And so I've kind of compared it to open heart surgery. You have to have time to recover, right? So you gotta, it's gonna take 5 to 6 years to do that. Jeannie comes in, makes sure that our plants and other sides of the riparian zone are functioning.
Well, back in the data gathering part too, sometimes we have to have specialized studies concerned like wetlands, if there's wetlands there or other critical areas. We usually do a cultural and historical research survey of the area, and then we kind of get into the permitting, and that's a huge part of it. He was talking about basically replanting in the riparian corridor. We always try to replant with trees. The trees and shrubs will provide shade, which provides cooler water. Salmon have to have cold water in order to survive. That also helps provide the insects that basically will fall off of the trees and the shrubs and get down into the water for food, for fish and other aquatic insects or animals. And then we monitor for fish after the project is done. And so, another environment, make sure that something doesn't happen that that would change it, so that it is still a fish passable structure.
So that segues to my next question. So Trevin, you mentioned 5-6 years. This program has been in place for about 3. Have we had any evidence of success? How do we measure that success, and have we seen a success yet?
Yes, and actually 4 out of 5 sites, I'm happy to report we have full-blown spawning fish. Remember, we go in thinking fish, coho in particular, for Thurston County, and we have got spawners at 4 out of 5 sites. The 5th site, we do have rearing fish as well. And our one up at Tibetan that we've finished this year, we know that we're going to have spawners on basically as soon as the stream opens up. So what's the beauty about these is that we are actually going out there and we've talked to the neighbors. My favorite side story here, if I can digress a little bit, is Steve and I went out to Flumerfell, which was a sister project to Troy. So we did two projects in the same stream system. And so the lower one is down off the Skookumchuck, very healthy river for steelhead and active salmon. And I'd been there before, and it was a velocity and perch situation. I'd actually seen fish take off when large spawners around in November. So we knew we had a good place for fish. We didn't realize it was going to be this good. We basically opened it up first season. We went upstream about a mile to the second project in the system named Flumerfell. And Steve and I are standing on the bridge. And during construction, one of the neighbors had issues, as you do from time to time with some of the construction guys. So I saw him come out of his house. I was like, oh boy, here we go. We're gonna have a long talk with this guy. And saw the county vehicle. And he's like, what are you guys doing up there? I said, well, we're looking for fish. You were seeing it through the movie. He goes, you want to see fish? Come on down here. And his neighbor from about 30 years, the local farmer there, they were down there just amazed watching the fish come in. They said it was the earliest that they've had them on the site, the longest. And he actually commented he's having a hard time sleeping tonight listening to them banging around spawning. So, you know, like I said, I know how fortunate I am to be a part of a program like this where you get to see results, and all the other work that goes into it to get to that point is the payoff. You know, and the before and afters are very dramatic, but actually seeing the thing function and watching, you know, out at Hunter Point, the alder, we get this alder patch that was so thick we weren't even sure that's what it was until we got up on top of it. You know, to watch these things, as I said, they're in rehab. They're coming back to life.
What are, you know, we all love to see the fish, but what are the collateral ecological benefits to opening this habitat that folks may not be aware of?
Basically, if you think about, I keep coming back to this heart surgery thing. Think about a clogged artery, right? So you got everything is blocked on the one side. We've opened it back up. Now it can flow. So what are the things that are blocked on the one side? We get stuck very quickly thinking about the fish passage piece of it. But for a productive stream, you need spawning gravel. Well, spawning gravel has been caught behind there. And then that spawning gravel then has been buried under the mud that's behind there. So once you open that up, all that scour is able to come down the system. And then we get some good rainstorms, and we're in Western Washington, so we get rainstorms. And the maintenance guys hate it when I talk about this, but last year I wanted some serious rainstorms to get things flushed out. Yeah. Leaf litter comes down, fills in the cracks, and basically creates the spawning gravel. That also, what's been trapped behind there is large woody debris. So large woody debris is logs and trees and things that should naturally be going down the system. That gets back to what Jeannie was talking about, where insects, everything, but also it's the best cover that you can make. We do our best to make LWD and place it in streams.
LWD being large
woody debris. Thank you. Yeah, and you're gonna have to stop me on acronyms. Large woody debris basically is the key for cover too. So in Thurston County, we keep talking about small fish. Well, the main one we're talking about is really coho. Coho pop out of the egg. They have an egg sac, and they got it hide out. It's kind of as a school for a little while. So when they have cover between LWD and large wood and diversity in the stream channel versus it's been robbed of its diversity because all the fines and everything, and it's just bedrock, there's nowhere for them to hide. So they're much easier to be eaten, taken out by the sun, low oxygen, heated water. But once you get that stream functioning better, you get the diversity, and the escapement is what we're really shooting for, is how many can we get to come back, how many can we get to make it through the year. And so as they work their way up through the system that's fully functioning, you hope they can get to a wetland or somewhere where they can overwinter and then come into summer be big enough to make it down to the salt water. So
almost immediately upon construction of one of our previous projects, we had a drone footage that showed deer crossing underneath the road. So now we have large animals using these crossings, which will obviously help prevent accidents at that location. I
know the county is working hard on water quality issues, and these processes that you've described help with that too. Am I right about that?
Definitely. Oh, definitely. It helps with water quality. And all of our projects do have to meet the current stormwater standards. So that's just part of the project. So that also helps with the water quality, as well as kind of creating a new stream channel where currently there was a culvert.
And you know, we add capacity to these streams. So where you have flooding, such as maybe occasionally on Wallow Creek, although we're fish first, there's a great example to where now the water's not overflowing during a flood season and grabbing all the brake dust and oils and things like that. It's staying in the channel versus overflowing over the creek because, once again, it was too small. The water backed up and flooded over the top of the road. So water quality, literally in a point source pollution point of view, these projects are benefit too. Like I said, we think fish passage and we think rearing, where the fish hang out through there, but it's just the tip of the iceberg of the value of one of these very black and white fix the culvert projects.
In addition to collateral environmental benefits, are there economic benefits to these projects to our region?
I came across a study that was done by the University of Oregon in 2010 that said that for each $1 million that's invested in fish passage programs, it translates to $2.2 million of economic benefit within the community. Between 14 and 20 jobs per $1 million are generated. There's also local suppliers and contractors. So the investment, it translates to, at least over 2 times of benefit.
For each local dollar that we spend.
Exactly. Most of it, I think they said too, that 90% of the money stays within the local community.
So Thurston County is not the only entity working on culvert removal, and are there other organizations in the community or the region that we partner with?
Absolutely, yes. For our projects, we're primarily looking at our culverts themselves. So we're keeping our work just within our right-of-way as much as possible, except for where we have to rebuild the stream slightly beyond. But we really do have to focus on our assets. Beyond that, we have up and downstream culverts, some owned by other agencies, cities, other counties, some owned by DOT, some owned by the railroad as well. But we have a lot of private-owned culverts as well. Now, one thing we need to keep in mind is that, again, if we're just focusing on the culvert blockage itself, that is the most expensive piece, but there's a lot of benefit that could be done in the stream corridor. That's something that we can't do as a government agency, but we can partner with others. And we have partnered in doing the research and doing the preliminary designs as well, and just making sure we know which are the right sites to work on. So we partner with our tribes, our local tribes. We partner with Fish and Wildlife. We partner with some of the WIRA groups. Jeannie, what's the WIRA?
Water Resource Inventory Area.
Water Resource Inventory Areas. There are a lot of people, a lot of scientists that have done a ton of research, and they know a lot of information. Again, we're trying to work fast. We're trying to get projects built. We don't have the time to do the research ourselves, and we rely on their data, which is a very good partnering opportunity.
We're restricted to working only on the public, the county-owned properties, but there are other resources out there, other groups like the South Puget Sound Salmon Enhancement Group, and they can work with private individuals. Also the Thurston Conservation District, the National Resources Conservation Service, NRCS, I was trying to remember what it stood for, but they also can work with a lot of private individuals that can do restoration on their own properties. So there's quite a lot of opportunities out there for people to enhance the riparian situations for other outside of the public.
Yeah, we know these are expensive projects, and it's intentionally not named the Thurston County Fish Passage Restoration Program. It's an enhancement because we know we're one piece of it. The beauty of it is that enhancement-wise, we've gotten the expensive piece out of the system, and we hope that everywhere from Boy Scout groups to local groups to tribes jump in and take over where we left off. Go get the additional plantings, put in the additional wood, do those things outside of our right-of-way that we can't do, and I feel they're living laboratories. They're an opportunity to watch. Groups can watch these grow and change and watch the fish come back, and it's not a perfect science. And the fact is, we need to go back and tweak things from time to time, and those are the kind of groups to let us know what we need to fix.
And this is the time of year to do that, right?
Absolutely. It's inside the fish window for construction, but it's the right time to go see some stuff for sure.
Thank you guys for joining me here, getting a little wet today as well. Final question, where can our citizens learn more about the county's fish enhancement and culvert project?
You can check out the Thurston County Public Works website. On the left-hand side, there's a series of links to many of our programs. One of those programs is the Fish Passage Enhancement Program. Feel free to click on that link, and that will show you at least one other video that talks about the program as a whole and more information about upcoming projects and previous projects as well.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching. The fall is a great time to get out and enjoy the outdoors. I encourage everyone to take advantage of the county's many opportunities to see the salmon spawning this fall and to learn more about what you can do to protect our guild friends who mean so much to us. See you at the river.